Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Jacki Tessmer here. I'll be moderating our webinar today, and I'll be working with our speakers. So first, let me just cover a few housekeeping items before we get started. We plan to present the content in full, with Kate Leggett, our esteemed speaker from Forrester, kicking us off. We'll then segue to an overview of the Enghouse Customer Experience AI Suite presented by my colleague, Steve Nattress, who heads this product area. You'll be able to use the GoToWebinar tool to submit your questions, which we will address at the end of the presentation. Simply use that question feature found in your GoToWebinar control panel and submit your question there. I've also got my colleague Dane Smith joining us today. He produces the webinar, so you may hear his voice as well. And we will be recording today's presentation. So if you would like to share the recording and review the content after the webinar, you'll be able to do that. We're very pleased to have Kate Leggett with us today. She's Forrester's Principal Analyst with expertise in customer relationship management, customer service strategies, and a particular focus on trends and best practices in the customer experience space. Welcome to my colleague, Steve Nattress. Steve joined Enghouse actually today in 2019 via our acquisition of Eptica, a leading artificial intelligence and voice of the customer software company. Steve has over 20 years of industry expertise, and he's been deploying solutions for the contact centers all over the world. And lastly, I'm Jacki, and I'll be the moderator today. And I've been in the contact center, CRM, and product management area for quite some time. And I'm really happy to share the great content our two speakers have with you today. So Kate, let's go ahead and kick it off with your part of the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Jacki. So what I want to do to kick this off is actually take a step back and talk about your customers. And the way I like to start talking about customers is to say, just look around you. We're surrounded in our lives by these highly personal, on-target experiences that do a great job at valuing your time, helping you reach your goals. I think of the consumer applications that I use on a daily basis. For example, Netflix and Amazon, who know me and are able to recommend purchases, movies based on who I am, what I've liked. I think about all the ride-sharing apps that I used to use before the pandemic that would take anxiety out of me getting to my destination. And then why do I think about applications like these? Because consumer apps have done a great job at up-leveling our expectations for engagement. And we expect a lot more these days out of an interaction. And it's like what the slide says. We expect any desired information or service to be available on any device at the moment of need. And your customers expect this type of engagement from a company that they do business with in their lives as consumers, but as well in their business lives. And it means that your customers hold the power today in your business relationships. And if your customers don't get the experience that they expect, they're going to take their business elsewhere. So what do we say? What do customers expect when they engage with a company? And at Forrester, we think about engagement in a framework of 3 E's. And those are the blue boxes on the left-hand side of your screen. So your customers expect easy experiences. Your customers want to be able to reach in over the channel and touch point of their choice and get connected to an answer or to an agent with very little friction. They also expect effective experiences, which are accurate, relevant, complete answers or transactions that are fully completed. And at the end of the day, your customers want to feel good about that experience. And that means that your answer, the resolution of your problem is delivered in context of your actions and in a personal to who you are and your current situation. And to be able to deliver these great experiences, your agents, your frontline workers have to be empowered with the right data, the right insights, the right technologies. And so what we say is that these data, insights, and technologies allow employees to have great experiences. So these technologies help agents be as productive as possible. For example, they need to have real-time access to customer data, product data, order data. They need common tasks to be automated. They need to be effectively guided through processes. They need to be facilitated to the right and the most important work at hand. For example, your most strategic customers or the most severe cases. And ultimately, these technologies have to empower them to connect both internally with other employees like subject matter experts or externally with their customers to be able to do the right thing for their customers, to be able to deliver those experiences that keep your customers satisfied and loyal. We've done a great job at overlooking employee experiences for a long time, but we're at a point right now where we can't do it anymore. And this is really because the demographics of our workforce are changing. You've got millennials. These are folks that are between 28 and 35 years old. They are going to form 44% of the workforce by 2025. These are your contact center managers, your supervisors today. And then you've got your Gen X's, which are those between Gen 18 and 25 that are just entering the workforce, and they're hot on the heels of the millennials. And generational differences are real. And these two demographics have new expectations for work. They have grown up using technologies to help them be more productive. They want to collaborate. They also want authentic, transparent relationships within their with their customers. And then they also want to work on the work that matters, the work that really makes an impact on the customer and for their company. And these generations are absolutely poised to take advantage of all the AI and automation capabilities that modern technology delivers. So why do you care about delivering great employee experiences? Because great employee agent experiences has a direct impact to customer experiences. And then customer experience, if you deliver great customer experiences, it has an impact to your top line company revenue. It's great for business because great customer experiences keep your customers satisfied and loyal to your brand. It keeps your customers, it encourages your customers to keep their business with the company, meaning that they're less likely to churn away from that brand. It also means that, that customers will look at the company to buy additional products or services, increasing their order value, their lifetime value as well. And ultimately, customers who have had great experiences talk about these experiences to their network. They recommend the company, the products and services of the company to others. And this helps drive second order revenue. And all these three dimensions of loyalty that you see on the screen here, which we call retention, enrichment, and advocacy, have a quantifiable impact to top line revenue. And at Forrester, we actually go a step further. We quantify the impact of great customer experiences on top line revenue. And what we do, and we've been doing this for over a decade, is we measure the customer experience that hundreds and hundreds of companies worldwide deliver. And then we take these companies and organize them into dozens and dozens of industries. And some of the industries that we have data on are shown on the screen here. And then what we do is we calculate the top line revenue that these companies could get if they deliver just a point better of customer experience than what they do today. And we have a whole framework to be able to quantify customer experience. And the revenue uplift is what you're seeing in the top right, in the far right-hand column on your screen. And we've got these financial models, and we validate our models with case studies of companies that have gone through these transformation efforts. And the takeaway of the screen, of the data on the screen, and there's a lot of data here, is that in every company, in every industry that we have data on, there is a correlation between better customer experience and increased top-line revenue. And ultimately, that's why you care about empowering your agents with modern technologies that are infused with AI and automation, because it impacts the employee experience, that then impacts the customer experience, that then has a quantifiable impact to the top-line revenue of your company. And so what does all this have to do with customer service? Customer service is a key component of a company's customer experience strategy and operations. 2/3 of a customer's interactions with a brand before they purchase a product, as they get onboarded or learn how to use the product, or when they have a question about the product or service that they've bought, or an issue with the product. All of these interactions are about customer service. And so that's why we say 2/3 of a customer's interactions with a brand are for customer service, pre-purchase and post-purchase. And so what's nice to know is that a contact center's decision maker's highest business priority is to improve the experience that's delivered to their customers, with growing revenue and reducing costs in second and third place. And so this data was taken right before the pandemic. And then we ran the survey again after the pandemic in July. And what we saw was, of course, with the pressures that we're facing today, reducing cost is increasingly important. And it's actually jumped 7 percentage points. But improving the experience of customers is still a top priority. It's decreased by 8 points. But still, contact center decision makers in the very challenging conditions that we're living through today are still focused on being able to improve the experience of their customers. Because in today's challenging world, you want to be able to nurture the customers that you have. Okay, so let's look at how your customers want to interact with you. So the modern customer, again, expects more. Think back to that first slide that I had in my presentation. It said your customer expects any desired information or service to be available on any device at the moment of need. So your customers want their time to be valued. They also want service delivered in a highly personal manner. And so what we find is that your modern customer, and increasingly important today, they use self-service as a first point of contact with a company. And then they turn to the digital agent-assisted channels at a much higher rate than before to help resolve issues and get answers to questions. And the data that you're looking at here is pre-pandemic data. And even then, and it's from Dimension Data, benchmarking report that's now NTT. And a year ago, contact center decision makers were saying, 88% were saying that they predicted self-service volumes would increase in the next 12 months. And 77 predicted that their digital agent-assisted volumes would increase. And Why is this the case? It's because self-service and digital agent-assisted service, if it's well done, it really values your customers' time by providing them with this easy, effective way to engage with a company. And we know that the pandemic has been a crash course on digital transformation, where companies have stood up self-service modalities like knowledge management, like chatbots, to be able to interact with their customers, and where customers are increasingly using digital channels like chat and messaging. So what happens to the phone channel? So before the pandemic, 64% of contact center decision makers said that their voice volumes would decrease. But this actually doesn't tell the entire story. There's more complexity there. What we find is that these voice interactions, even though there's fewer of them, the interaction is actually longer and more complex, because agent voice interactions it's really an escalation point for those more complex issues, like a claims dispute, or think about a product error that requires a lot of back and forth communication and diagnosis. And these types of interactions take a lot longer to resolve, and also require that skilled agent to be able to have not only the knowledge to be able to solve the problem, but to be able to have the emotional wherewithal to be able to manage customers' frustrations. And so let's talk about that emotional element. So at best, your customers are frustrated because they've self-served, they've felt that their time was wasted, they couldn't find their answer, and now they've waited in an IVR queue and then got connected to an agent. But your customers could be anxious, or they could have been completely devastated, where they've lost their livelihood, or they've gotten sick. And then they bring this emotion to the interaction. And for example, they don't understand why a claim was denied for medication that they need, or they're angry because they've been hit with a surcharge on their bill. And so agents have to understand the emotional tone of these customers and then solve the harder problems. And it's increasingly important to get these interactions right, because these voice interactions offer these rare moments to connect with a customer and to nurture relationships. And these types of interactions are also more rewarding because it offers your agents a real sense of purpose, which resonates with that point of view I had about millennials and the Gen Zs coming into the workplace, where these generations want to make an impact on the customer. They want a real sense of purpose. And customer service managers really have to do a great job at making these human moments matter. And they have to empower agents, again, with all the right technologies that are fueled by AI and automation, to be able to support employees doing the right thing for their customers. Okay, this is another perspective. I walked into a telecommunications company a couple of years ago, and the IT manager handed me this diagram and told me that their agents use 12 different systems during the course of their workday that aren't integrated. And they use these systems to be able to serve and support their customers. And agents have to hunt and peck for information in disconnected systems, have to do rote activities like cutting and pasting data from one application to another. They didn't follow consistent processes, and managers really struggled to meet the quality of service metrics for their organization. And then this software ecosystem was so complex. This IT manager told me that it took, on average, 9 months for an agent to be fully trained up. But agents were so frustrated by their tool set that they actually left. They turned over every 6 months. And so what it meant was a customer calling in never probably talked to a fully trained up agent. So what you have to do is you have to infuse your operations with AI and automation wherever and whenever possible. And we know that AI and automation encompasses a huge swath of different technologies. But the outcome is the same. It helps offload agent tasks. It helps offload agents from doing repetitive tasks and allows them to focus on the conversation that's happening with the customer and on work that really matters, that requires insight and analysis. And we think about, at Forrester, a value chain for what AI and automation can bring to the table. And at the low end, it can help make your customer service operations more productive. For example, like automatically classifying cases or automatically routing inquiries to the right agent queue. AI and automation can also help reduce friction in customer journeys. For example, escalating issues based on the intent of the inquiry or the context or the sentiment that you're picking up in an interaction. AI can also empower customers to self-help by fueling, for example, automatic chatbot conversations or making the knowledge that's displayed as a customer searches for an answer more relevant to that search. AI can even understand like a customer's sentiment and where they are in their journey and engage with them proactively to help fuel better relationships. Like, for example, you're on a website and you're going between two different products, trying to understand which one to buy, and you get a proactive chat invitation with an agent who's able to help understand your requirements and help recommend the right purchase for your needs. And what we predict is that more and more companies are going to be leveraging AI and automation to help automate these repetitive tasks again, wherever and whenever possible. And so we often think of the contact center agent as being this technologically augmented agent. They're really that super agent where agents need to be empowered with, for example, collaboration zones to work with other agents or subject matter experts on a difficult problem. They may need predictive systems to help surface the best data and information, like related bugs or cases. They may need chatbots, agent-facing chatbots that help them find the information that they're looking for, or they may need workflows to lead them through best paths to manage, for example, like a claim, or to help them ensure that they're complying to company policy. They also may need behavioral assistance to better understand the emotional state of the customer so that they can better relate to the customer. And so these super agents are equipped with all this modern technology to help them be more effective, and as well, not only to solve the harder work, but as well to be able to emotionally connect with a customer and do the right thing for the customer. But this isn't just a one-time endeavor. What you want to do is continually monitor the outcomes of your customer service operations, of every interaction, to be able to better understand your customer, to be able to understand the quality of service that you're delivering, and then use these insights to help deliver better customer and agent experiences. And to do this, you really need to start off by listening to feedback across channels, across touch points. You want to collect feedback through methods like surveys or post-contact surveys, or IVR surveys, digital surveys, even your agent surveys. You also want to be able to understand or get insights from unstructured data. For example, your interactions, digital interactions, like your chat logs or chatbot logs or your call recordings. And then you want to couple that as well with real-time understanding of the customer journey or behavioral data. You want to take all these insights and interpret them, analyze the feedback to identify useful insights, and then make them relevant and accessible. And then you want to act on these insights. And actions may be like responding to a customer or coaching your agents or perhaps changing an experience, like a process. And then you want to monitor your results and efforts over time and then use that to continuously improve. And as you get better and better at delivering great customer experiences, which means not only monitoring, it means adding AI and automation to your operations. And it then means being able to monitor and analyze the outcomes of these technologies. What you will find is that the work that your contact center gets slowly changes over time. And so why this happens is because automation and AI increasingly handle all the routine tasks. And your agents tend to be dedicated to your exceptions and escalations. And these agents end up being the ones that are the subject matter experts, your super agents. So what we say is that your jobs will change. There's less need for generalists or your tier 1 agents, but there's a lot more need for knowledge workers, your super agents, your subject matter experts, your tier 3 or 4 agents. And then what you also find is that new jobs will emerge. For example, if you stand up chatbots, you need to be able to manage the outcomes of chatbots and be able to tune them over time. So you will need a role like a bot supervisor. This may be a great career path, for example, for one of your tier 1 agents. You will need conversational designers to be able to script the conversational flows in your chatbot. You will need all the new engineering roles, your data science roles, your data stewards, your app developer roles, to be able to maintain and improve those AI machine learning models. So again, the nature of work will change. Here's a couple examples that come to mind. There's a forward fashion company called Textile Fashion Group. And so what they do is they hire, they call them associates, not agents, that have a passion for fashion, to help customers, and they help customers find the right clothing or accessories in a really consultative role. And so what this does, it really allows the company to take time to hire for the culture and the profile that they want, which is not somebody who comes from a classic contact center background, but somebody who really has a passion and interest in youth fashion. Another example, for example, is there's a tax software service that many of us use. And they added a lot of automation and AI to their applications. And so what they do is they now hire two profiles. They hire tax accountants and software engineers, because the questions that they get into their contact center are about taxes or about troubleshooting the application. Again, it's a company that doesn't have a need really for generalists or tier 1 agents because they've tuned the software so well that it is able to, again, all the questions that come into the contact center are the ones that require, again, tax help or application help. So as you add AI and automation to your operations, you have to message this journey correctly to your agents. So again, what we find is that almost half of your agents are open to training AI models, to working side by side with AI and automation. And especially the younger generations who are working in the contact center expect their technologies that they use to be able to make them more productive, to make them more effective, to be able to allow them to do the right thing for customers. But your agents are also scared of being replaced, of losing their jobs. And so what you have to do is correctly message the why you're adding these technologies into your contact center, something that only 17% of contact center decision makers do well. You also have to pay attention to the human element, where your agents are feeling that they may be replaced. Only 15% of contact center decision makers do this well. And then you have to take your agents and career path them, show them a path forward. As you automate some of their work, how will you train them, coach them, up-level them so that they can work on the harder work that can't be easily automated? And again, only 14% of companies, and this is data from our Forrester survey that ran before the pandemic, only 14% of contact center decision makers do a good job at career pathing their employees as automation is introduced. And again, it's not a one-time effort. It's a continual messaging and working with your agents to coach them and train them as the nature of work within your contact center ultimately changes. So to wrap it up, this is what I'd like you to take away from this introduction. Is first of all, delivering customer experiences has a real economic value. It's even more important in the pandemic times that we're living in today, where you want to nurture and do the right thing for your customers that may be inconvenienced by the pandemic, or they may have been completely devastated. So what you have to do is communicate the value of delivering great customer experiences to your agents. And then you want to look at automation and AI technologies to make your operations more efficient, to make your agents more productive. And what this will mean is that you deliver better agent experiences. It's going to impact your agents' retention. It's also going to allow them to better deliver great customer experiences that keep your customers satisfied and loyal. But as you add AI and automation, your agent work is going to change. Your agents are going to get harder work. And your agent-assisted interactions are also going to get longer. And so what you want to do is you want to explain to your agents the value of AI and automation, show them how to work side by side with these technologies, train them for new roles, career path them, and this will ultimately transform your agents into these super agents that are more empathetic, that can work on the harder work and do the right thing for your customers.
Oh, thanks so much, Kate, for sharing this content. I particularly think that direct revenue impact of even one more point improvement in the CX measures is just a really valuable thing for you to share for us today. So thanks for that. And then we're going to have Steve go ahead and get us into his content and the Enghouse AI CX suite.
Yep, thanks, Jackie, and thanks, Kate. The Forrester research certainly reflects what our customers are telling us as well, and that artificial intelligence is definitely making and going to continue to make a big impact in the world of customer experience. But as some of the audience members will remember, AI has been touted as the next big thing in customer experience for at least 20 years. The first password reset service that contained some element of AI was launched in the late 1990s. And that's a lot of history. But in my view, there's been too much time spent marveling at what AI is capable of, and not enough time matching AI capabilities with real business pain points. As Kate discussed earlier, the changes in customer expectations have created new pain points for organizations, and at Enghouse, we're excited by the ways in which AI can be used to solve these real business problems. But it's about matching the right technology with those pain points. And today I'd like to share a little bit more on how we are helping our customers leverage their existing technologies in combination with AI to achieve broader business objectives. At Enghouse, we view these AI solutions as falling into three broad areas. Automated conversations is where the agent is when there's no agent involved in the interaction, and automation and AI handle every element of the conversation. This could be context-aware assistance on your website or script-driven chatbots. Then we have augmented conversations, and this is where we find the super agents that Kate mentioned earlier. We're using AI here to empower agents to build those valuable customer relationships instead of spending time searching for answers or on repetitive tasks. Solutions in this area include proactive and automated answer suggestions and live in-call coaching. And then we have conversation analytics, and this is about extracting insight from every customer conversation and using this insight to drive measurable improvements in customer experience. It includes voice of the customer programs, but also the automation of elements of the quality management process. And I'm going to dive into each of these in a bit more detail, but first I wanted to provide the audience with an overview of our AI portfolio. At Enghouse, we have an extensive portfolio of products for the whole contact center environment. And in particular, our AI solution covers the complete spectrum of CX activities, from online with context-aware assistance, to chat and messaging solutions that use real-time agent assistance and chatbots, to voice with intelligent IVR, to email with linguistic routing and intelligent auto response, and finally to analytics with AI insights. Our customers are therefore able to utilize our AI solution to solve their specific needs. I'll give a couple of examples. We have a European insurance customer that uses AI-backed in-call coaching to ensure the agents provide all the appropriate legal messaging when they're drawing up a contract with the customer. And then it also checks for other factors that impact customer experience, such as detecting emotion or crosstalk and advising the agent on how to improve. Then we have a healthcare customer that uses our AI-powered assistant with their web chat service. This automatically suggests answers for the agent, and this improves the agent efficiency because they don't need to type every answer, but it also improves answer consistency and accuracy, which is especially important in such a regulated environment. But at the heart of all of these solutions is something that we're really excited about, and this is our own AI engine that is specifically focused on customer experience. The Enghouse Customer Experience AI engine uses a proprietary technology that is built upon more than 20 years of research. It utilizes advanced natural language processing techniques and a specialized customer experience dictionary that has more than 1 million terms and 300,000 concepts and synonyms. But in real world terms, what this means is that we've taught the system how to understand the human sentence structure, i.e. subject, verb, object. Which means that it understands the subtle differences between the different types of sentences, the differences between questions, statements, requests, reminders. All of this means that our AI engine can achieve a greater degree of accuracy than machine learning systems can achieve on their own. I'd like to look a little bit more in the automated conversations. And this is the area that most people think about when they think about AI in the contact center. Some people may view this as contact deflection, but I prefer to think of this as helping your customers to help themselves. At the most complex end of the spectrum, you have conversational AI, and that's able to do some amazing things. But there are some real business pain points that can be solved with more cost-effective solutions. If you are considering implementing an automated conversation solution, I recommend that you pick the simplest and big ticket item and focus on that first. For example, if your agents are spending a lot of time on relatively simple tasks, you could consider using proactive and interactive messaging, such as appointment reminders or notifications, automated fraud warnings for credit cards, or fulfillment bots that manage the whole e-retail delivery cycle. On the other hand, if your team are always having to collect the same information from every single customer, use data to collection dialogues with an intelligent IVR. But there's a warning here. The history of automated conversations is littered with failures, and these often result from attempting to boil the ocean, i.e. expecting too much, or leaving the chatbot in the corner to get stale. In my view, success comes from treating chatbots and other automated solutions like digital members of staff, measuring their results with the same KPIs, reviewing their output in the same way as you would review a human agent's output, and then retraining as necessary. Now, the advantage with the digital agent is that often this retraining may just be as simple as making sure that your knowledge base is up to date. Moving on to augmented conversations. After all, artificial intelligence, as Kate discussed earlier, is not just about taking over the simple or repetitive actions. It's also about improving the flow from self-service to assisted service, and then supporting the agents with these interactions. And these augmented conversations take place across every single channel. Just like with automated conversations, we believe that a successful AI deployment starts by solving real business pain points. For example, using voice biometrics to streamline the customer identification process. This saves valuable call time and improves the customer experience. Or providing agents with automated suggested answers for web chats, as I mentioned earlier, or emails, and this improves handling times and response consistency. An AI-backed knowledge base can also provide the same benefits for agents on the phone. Now, even today, I wonder how many of the audience work in contact centers where agents maintain their own cheat sheets or rely on a few experienced individuals to solve those most complex customer questions. At Enghouse, we have a customer that has a particularly complex service offering. And then before they implemented our solution, their agent onboarding would take several days, if not weeks. And now they've reduced it to just a matter of hours. And because they've used our AI-backed knowledge base, and this is the first application these new starters are given access to, and that's dramatically improved the employee experience, the agent experience, and making sure that they can deliver the pieces that only humans can deliver, which is that emotional connection with your customers. Just to spend a little bit more time on the augmented agent side, is that I wanted to look at how AI actually works when it augments the agents and when they're processing emails or any digital channel. And as humans, when we read emails, as I'm sure some of you are doing right now whilst listening to me, we naturally scan the content to find the most relevant sentences before deciding what to do with that email. The Enghouse CX AI engine approaches the problem in a similar way. First, it extracts the most significant part of the message, skipping the greetings and the signatures. And then the AI engine scans that significant text to decide how best to route the message. Then when the email is presented to the agent, they're also presented with suggested answers from the knowledge base. The agent can insert one of these answers, adapt it, or write their own. And the system then learns from the agent's actions to improve the suggestions in the future. All of these AI-driven steps can drastically improve handling times. For example, we have a utilities customer that uses our AI engine to route messages based on the content. The simplest messages get a fully automated intelligent response that contains answers based on the content of the customer's email. And then the majority of the remaining messages get routed based on the topic. It could be a payment or bill inquiry. It could be an inquiry about how to switch provider, and there's various more specialist topics that they have within their business. But the system is also capable of identifying those messages that contain specific risks. For example, customers wanting to leave, or even legal issues. and these messages are then routed to more senior advisors. At each point, the agents are able to use the knowledge base to speed up writing their responses. Through using the Enghouse CX AI engine, this customer has been able to more than halve their average handling times for their emails. Moving on to the last of the three broad areas that I mentioned at the beginning, conversation analytics. And I'd like to focus on just two of our solutions in this space. Firstly, we have the automation of quality management. Supervisors, as Kate mentioned earlier, many of them are already super agents, and especially because in the quality management role, they often listen to call recordings at 1.5 to twice the speed. But I'm sure most businesses, and indeed most supervisors themselves, would prefer to spend their time coaching agents rather than listening to calls. At Enghouse, we're using our AI engine to automate this process. This enables more calls to be reviewed, and then only those that need more attention are flagged for human review. Next, we have feedback analytics. And as the CX index research that Kate showed us earlier, there is a strong relationship between customer experience and score and revenue. But I'm probably preaching to the choir today with today's audience is when talking about that link between CX scores and revenue. But this only gives a partial picture. And it leads to the question, how do businesses know which changes are going to make the biggest impact on this customer experience score? I believe to get that complete picture, we need to get to the why behind these scores. We need to analyze the customer conversations. And this is where AI insights can help. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about how our AI engine works. Here we have a real example of some customer feedback for one of our customers. And vecko, which is our AI insights tool, is able to segment this comment to extract the actionable insights. First section is clearly a positive comment about the staff. The second part is clearly negative opinion about the loans. And in both of these first two segments, our system is able to understand that not just that there was a positive sentiment about the staff and a negative opinion about the loans, but more specifically that the staff were helpful and the loan interest rates were too high. And then finally, we have what some systems would have missed, but our linguistics insight tool spots this as a churn risk, i.e. this is a signal that the customer is about to leave this business. If we had used traditional classical root cause analysis with pure machine learning, we would determine that the reason this customer is prone to churn was both due to the staff and the interest rates. But using our AI engine, we can achieve a deeper level of understanding of this customer comment, and this delivers real actionable insight. With vecko, you have the ability to zoom in from the charts and the dashboards that give the high-level overview, all the way down into detailed, highlighted verbatim that looks exactly the same as we've seen here today. And these transparent results help enhance the business's understanding of what customers are actually saying. Once we have these linguistic insights, we can combine them into with the other data we've collected, so the CSAT scores, NPS scores, or whatever other mechanism that you're collecting, and create these dashboards that they can be shared with the team leaders, or in this case with a store manager. And what we can see on here is that top left-hand corner, we have the categories that are doing well and pulling the scores up, and then the bottom, those that are doing that need some improvement. And then on the right-hand side, we have some specific examples of the customer of the comments. And we find that using these real examples really focuses the teams on what they need to do to improve and also what they need to keep doing. Vecko is being used successfully all over the world, but I wanted to flag two particular success stories. Firstly, we have a banking customer who wanted to use feedback analysis to improve their mobile banking experience. Not only did they get this specific insight that they wanted, they were also able to identify some customer accounts that were worth approximately $3 million that were at risk of leaving this bank. And the team were able to proactively reach out and try and save these accounts. And I believe they saved the vast majority of that amount. Then we have a retail customer that wanted to create specific customer experience action plans for each store manager. And then using the vecko dashboards that I showed on the previous slide, they've seen a group-wide improvement of 3 NPS points, and some individual stores have seen an 8-point improvement. Obviously, this is a real benefit to the business. And then just to wrap up, we're often asked by contact center managers, there are so many areas where AI could be helping us. What should we do first? And the reality is that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. And whilst there may be common traits across businesses and across verticals, the specifics of how AI can benefit your business will be unique. I always advise the customers to follow your metrics. In other words, if your metrics indicate you have a high volume of low-value conversations in the contact center, consider implementing automated conversations. But remember to think solve rather than deflect in this scenario. But if your metrics show there's issues with the consistency of response, and this could be a big variation in first contact resolution or average handling time between agents, then you look at implementing a knowledge base to support these augmented conversations. And getting this knowledge base up and running also benefits automated conversations should you wish to implement in the future. But if you're not sure what the metrics are really saying, or if you don't have any data, I tell our customers, ask your customers. And I think of this as the measure first approach. Use a voice of the customer program combined with AI insights to discover what the customer is telling you is most important to them, and then act on these results. Do this by bringing everyone together, the business operations, the IT team, as well as your technology partners, to share insights and then work together to identify and address the biggest pain points first. This shared approach to business change will create an environment where your super agents can not only see and understand the benefits of AI and automation, but can actually thrive in delivering the customer experience improvements that, as we've mentioned several times today, can really impact your bottom line. And at the end, I'd just like to wrap up with a quote from Peter Drucker. Working on the right things is what makes knowledge work effective. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve. I liked your advice that if you don't know where to start, go ahead and start with that voice of the customer program and use AI-driven insights to analyze it. Because we've done an overview of the AI-driven CX solutions that Steve's presented, and I just wanted to take a moment to let you know that Enghouse does have an extensive portfolio of products for the really broad contact center environment. We also believe in choice and flexibility, so these solutions can be offered in flexible deployment options, either on-premise, hybrid, or in the cloud. And we've prepared quite a bit of great resources for you, including sharing Kate's report, The 3 Customer Service Megatrends in 2020. You'll find all of these on the microsite where you register, and I hope that you'll visit and download a report if you haven't already. And then we will be making this replay available. And here's a link. Not only will the replay be available on our Vimeo site, there's also the phone number, the email address to get a hold of us if you'd like to see a demo of any of these solutions. And I think with that, let's go ahead and take a couple questions. Dane, I think we've got time for 2, maybe 3 questions.
Okay, yeah, we do have a few. So this first one is, what are the digital interaction channels that are increasing most? Is it email? Is it chat?
Good one. Kate, I think that's going back to some information you shared about voice versus digital channel volume. Do you want to take that?
Yeah. So Forrester data finds that digital channels like synchronous chat, but even more the asynchronous messaging channels, SMS, messaging off from Facebook, WhatsApp, etc. And there's a country flavor to the types of messaging channels that get picked up. and used are increasingly popular because these are channels that your consumers are already using. They value your time. You can start a conversation, walk away from it, come back to it. But surprisingly, email has gone gangbusters since the pandemic, especially for inquiries that aren't time sensitive. And so many brands, especially retailers, are reporting spikes in email volumes. Don't know if you want to add anything, Jacki.
Yes, you're right. We've actually seen similar, and it struck me that, particularly during the pandemic, we're all multitasking. You know, I wouldn't confess to doing this and having the work computer on one desk and the home computer on the next, but you've got a break, you spin over, it's easier to send an email about that question you have maybe than when you made time to do lengthy chat or voice interaction. So yeah, thanks for sharing those insights. I think that's important to know that voice isn't dead, but neither is email. Dane, do we have one that might be more for Steve, because we are getting close to the top of the hour?
You know what, I actually see one here. I think, you know what, I think this one actually specifically is for Steve, based on what it's talking about towards the end of the presentation. You suggested that we should start by asking our customers. So do you have any advice or warnings about VOC programs?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. I mean, for me, the most successful voice to customer programs are those that are aligned with overall business strategy and use what I call an actionable thinking approach, which means asking meaningful questions to get meaningful and therefore actionable insights. It's too easy to ask a question that elicits a one-word answer. For example, why did you visit our website today? What we recommend is asking an open question, and that gets to what your customers are really thinking. For example, why did you give us this score? And then that really helps you drive to the heart of what the customer is really trying to get at.
Oh, super. Thanks for that, Steve. That's great advice. It makes me think of the whole, my dad was a carpenter, measure twice, cut once, and start with that voice of the customer program so you can get those measures. Well, thank you everyone for staying with us to the top of the hour. We've been very happy to share this content with you. Thanks, Kate, for sharing both all your insights and that great Megatrends report. It's nothing better than really current 2020 research that's even been updated post-pandemic. And Steve, thanks so much for taking us through your content. Thanks again, everyone. That's a wrap. Appreciate you spending time with us today.